This video will show you how to replace the front door latch on a Cadillac CTS. This will be mounted inside of your front door. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Let's start removing the door panel. To do that, we're up along the top. We need to remove our door lock knob. If you are looking in this area here, you can see that we do have a square trap door. This is actually the lock for the door lock knob, so I'm using a small pocket screwdriver. You can use a small pick. Gently pull that out and away, and you should be able to lift that knob out. That's how it unlocks. Just a quick inspection of that, we'll set it aside. Now, as far as this small trim panel, it's actually part of the door panel and it does not have to be removed. So once you have it pulled away from the door, let's continue on to the inside door handle area. Now down here, we have to remove this entire plastic panel. Keep in mind there will be an electrical connector where your door lock switch is. I'm continuing on with my plastic trim tool. I want to start prying this out. I'll make my way down along this area. Once I have it all broken free along here, we're going to pull on the inside door handle and slide the entire thing out of place. As I mentioned, just keep in mind there is a wiring harness back here. Obviously, we're being aware of any pinch points. Are. Now I'm rotating this so I can slide the door handle out of the trim panel. We have to disconnect the electrical connector for the door lock switch. It has one locking tab right in this area. For this locking tab, I like to use a small pocket screwdriver. You can also use a pick. Just make your way under it and gently pull out on that wiring harness. Every time you disconnect an electrical connector, just give it a quick peek for corrosion. If you see any, it has to be taken care of. This looks fine, so I'm going to set this switch panel aside. We'll tuck the wiring inside of the door panel. Let's make our way towards where our window and mirror switches are. You might also have a seat memory switch. We're going to remove this entire plastic panel, and we have to disconnect our two electrical connectors. As far as this panel is concerned, you're going to find that there's 4 locking tabs. You have one along the forward side here. You have a second along the rearward side. Along each side of this panel, approximately in the center, you're going to have plastic tabs that protrude out and they go underneath the door panel. So you're just going to have to carefully separate that as we continue on lifting this up and out of position. Keep in mind there are a couple wiring harnesses. As far as the forward and rearward side, there should be metal clips holding it in position, so I like to use a small pocket screwdriver. I'll come in straight, come in down at an angle, and then just start prying it up. As I'm prying it up, of course I'm being aware of any pinch points. I don't want to get hurt, but I do want to keep some light pressure. Let's continue on towards the center here. Now this is where I should have that plastic tab. I just want to try to pry this out and away. I'm just separating this. There's that plastic tab. It's starting to lift up. I need to make my way towards the rear. Along the rear, once again, you should have a metal locking tab in here. We're just going to try to work that out of position, and we should be able to lift this up and out. So looking from the bottom of the switch panel, we have our first electrical connector. This is for our large switch panel. This is for the window switch and our mirror switch. It has one locking tab here. Just go ahead and squeeze it in, and we'll pull that right out of place. You know what to do. That looks good. Continue on to the seat switch. Now this has a locking tab as well. We're going to have to press that in. It's typically done by hand. You can also use some pliers or a small screwdriver if necessary, if it's stuck in place. That looks good. Let's move towards where the grab handle is. Looking in this area, you have a small plastic trap door. This will have 4 locking tabs holding it in position. As far as those are concerned, typically once you start prying it out, the tabs should just separate and we'll roll it out of position. You can come from the top or the bottom, whatever's easiest for you. I'll use my small pocket screwdriver, something small enough to make my way in this area. As I mentioned, we're just going to pull it right out of place. There's those tabs. This looks good. Now let's have a look inside of this port. So once you remove that panel, if you were to look inside this area, you're going to find that you have 2 Phillips head screws. Let's remove the pair. There's our first mounting screw. Let's get that next one. To continue removing the door panel, we're going to carefully make our way behind the panel, in between the door and the panel itself, start pulling it away. For this, I'm going to be using a trim tool along the side. We'll start breaking it free, of course being aware of any pinch points. With that said, let's start prying this out of place. Just find an area you can make your way in between. Generally along the side will be the easiest to start. Once it starts coming out, you can do it by hand. Just be aware of any pinch points. Now once you have it all broken free along the bottom, we're paying attention along the top. We'll carefully lift up on this and pull it away from the door. Let's have a quick look behind this area. Now that we have the door panel out of the way, let's start dislodging our vapor barrier. You can see that we do have black butyl tape making its way all the way around. This is a sealant and it's extremely sticky. Don't get it on your skin or on your clothing. We'll just carefully start pulling this away so we can make our way inside this area. So now as we look inside of the door, we can see where our door latch is. You can see that there are several rods leading to it, and we're going to have to disconnect each of those, including our wiring harness as well. I'm going to start with this area here. Now this rod leads to our outside door handle. It's fairly simple to dislodge using an angled pick. Grab onto the ear as far as the locking tab's concerned and slide that out of place. Once you have that locking tab dislodged, you should be able to take hold of the rod, slide it out of position. You can do this by hand if you don't have a pick. Now before I can start removing the rest of my rods, or even my electrical wiring harness and connector, I like to make my way on the outside of the door, and I'm going to remove my 3 mounting screws holding this in place. Once it can move around, we'll have better access to be able to remove these items. Now as far as our 3 mounting screws holding this in place, we're using a T30 Torx socket for this. There's our first mounting bolt. Now we can make our way back inside of that door. Now that we have that latch dislodged, let's make our way back towards the port leading into the door. We have to dislodge the door lock rod from the door. You can see that we do have this white connector portion. We're just going to carefully pull that rod out of position. Now we can swing. Let's make our way inside of the door now so we can continue on the removal process of our rods inside this area. Now that I have that rod dislodged, I'm going to pay attention to my electrical connector. As far as this electrical connector, it's fairly simple to remove. I'm using a small pocket screwdriver right up along the top. There's a red locking tab. Just pry that up as much as necessary so you can remove that electrical connector. Of course, a quick inspection on both ends for corrosion there. That wiring harness looks good. Now, all the way down this area, we have our inside door handle rod leading to that actuator. We're going to pivot the actuator as necessary so we can slide it off of the rod. There we are. Now we can pay attention to our last rod over here. As far as that one's concerned, the hooked area kind of leans in a different direction, so we're going to pivot it in the direction necessary to remove the latch assembly from that rod. There's that. Okay. Let's start pulling this out of here. There we are. We can just remove that one final rod. Just pay attention to the way it does make its way out of this. A quick inspection of the rod, and there it is, friend. Now, prior to installing any part, of course, we want to make sure we clean and inspect our mounting area. We've already inspected our electrical connector, but let's continue on to each of the rods that we can visually see here, and of course the door. As far as the rods are concerned, we just want to make sure nothing's rotted or weak. A little bit of rust is okay. As far as the door, just give that a quick wipe, and of course make sure that that's not rotted or weak. We don't want that latch moving around. This looks good. After cleaning, let's have a quick look at our brand new door lock actuator compared to the original. We want to make sure everything matches up the way that it needs to. You can see the corresponding ports for the electrical connector, all of our rods. One thing I would mention is before you install this in the door, just make sure that this is actually opened. It's fairly difficult to open when it's in the vehicle. Now with that said, we did remove the door lock rod from this area on the original latch, so I'm going to be inserting that now onto the brand new latch. We want to make sure it comes through from the proper side. We're sliding through from this angle, and then we'll roll it up just like this. Let's get this over to the vehicle. Now, while I have this latch inside of the door, I'm going for this hooked area first. I need to pivot this entire unit as necessary so I can get it in position. As you insert each one of the rods, double check to make sure they're properly secured. You don't want any of these coming loose while you're driving down the road. That rod is properly secured. Let's continue on. Now that we have that on there, let's continue on to our next rod. I'm holding on to my door lock actuator here. Now we need to apply the rod that leads to the inside door handle, and that's going down to this area here. So we'll pivot things around as necessary and we can get that in place. Okay, I can see that's going through. Now I'm going to pivot the latch. Double check that rod. This is all looking great. Now before we install the last rod, we have to make our way back on the outside so we can install our latch mounting bolts. There's the first bolt started in. Obviously we're going to start in each of the pieces of hardware before we tighten any of them. Just going to double check each one of these bolts. Now we can make our way back inside the door. Now before we install this rod, we need to make sure that the door lock rod is making its way along the door, not along where the latch would be. It needs to be on the proper side of this rod or else it's not going to align. Now I can tell that mine is aligned properly. If yours is not, you're going to have to dislodge the latch and then you should be able to maneuver things around as necessary. Now with that said, the rod should fit down into position here. You shouldn't lift up or down on it. We just want to make sure it's in the proper position, then we're going to lock it in. Once you feel as though you have it locked in, give it a wiggle, make sure it does not fall out of place. Now we're moving along to our electrical wiring harness connector. The red locking tab would be up along the top. Line it up, press it in as far as it can go, and then press down on the red locking tab while doing so. We're pressing it in and pressing down on the red tab. It'll continuously go in towards the latch. While we're still in this area, one last quick inspection just to double check to make sure everything's properly in place and secured. This looks good. So now we have our door lock rod that makes its way up through this area here. Just press it into position. Perfect. Let's just make sure there's nothing inside of the door and we'll continue on with our vapor barrier. As for the vapor barrier, typically you can tell exactly where it needs to be. Just attempt to align it with where you had removed it. We're pressing it up against the door. We want to have a good seal all the way around. One last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our door panel. Now when we install the door panel, we're coming up nice and high first. We're going to press it up against the door and then we're going to start pressing it down. We want to try to get this into the fully seated position. Now once you feel as though you have it down far enough, we're going to continue on all the way around the door, driving it in up against the door, and then we'll just double check to make sure it's secured. We'll end up along the top and make sure this is secured as well. All the way up along the top, we'll press this into position as well. There we go, just listen for an audible click from that. On the upper corner, let's get ready to install the door lock knob. We need to make sure we can gain access to our door lock rod. Now, if you find you have trouble, you could use some long nose pliers. We'll take hold of that rod, carefully pull it into an area that we can line this up. Now at this point, I'm going to line this up. I'm pressing it down. I can release my pliers, and now we'll just start pressing this down. We want to have this in the unlocked position. Continue on with your locking tab. Now, as far as this locking tab, you can see that it does have a small groove. When we press this in, that groove is going to go around our rod. This is what locks it in position. Let's leave this in the unlocked position and we'll continue on. Moving along from there, we're heading towards where our inside grab handle is. Just behind here, you remember we had 2 Phillips head screws. Let's start in each and then tighten them. To install our 2 Phillips head screws, we'll just carefully get them in position, and of course once they're both started in, we'll snug them up. Okay, this is looking good. Let's make sure they're nice and tight. Next, we'll install our protective cover. As for the protective cover, we need to have it in this orientation. Just have a quick look. You remember there's 4 locking tabs. Let's line it up, press it in. Make sure it's secure. Now it's time to install our master switch panel here. We'll start with the large connector. Audible click from that, and it's secure. If you have a seat memory switch, install that as well. Slide it in, audible click. Let's make sure we tuck the wires down and in. Now we're going to start bringing this down. As you remember during the removal process, each side of the switch panel will have this one locking tab. There's one here, one on the other side. As we start lining this up, we're just going to press it down and through. Double check, make sure that's secured. Let's make our way up. As we make our way up towards the inside door handle, we need to make sure we can gain access to our electrical connector for our door lock. Just reach up in here. Let's go ahead and secure that in place. Line it up, press it in. Audible click from that, and it's secure. Now let's continue on with the rest of this. We're going to take the door handle, we're pulling on it, we're sliding it through the port on this bezel. Now we'll start bringing this into position. Press it in up against the door. Okay friend, we finished the installation of our door latch. While we were still inside of the door, we made sure that each one of the rods was properly connected and functioned as it should. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.